A Ukrainian drone attack on a Russian naval base has killed 2 people, according to local authorities.
In a separate attack, Ukrainian forces hit the Salavat petrochemical complex, one of Russia's largest, located 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine.
At exactly 2 p.m. on September 22nd, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin's phone buzzed with an emergency alert that would shatter Russia's carefully constructed illusion of invincibility. The first Ukrainian drone had crossed into Moscow's airspace from the Kaluga direction, and within minutes, air traffic controllers at Sheremetyevo Airport watched their screens light up with dozens of contacts approaching from the west, north, and southeast simultaneously. The emergency air security protocol, known internally as the Kova plan, kicked in immediately. Every aircraft in Moscow's airspace received urgent instructions: land immediately or divert elsewhere. The 3 giants of Russian aviation, Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, and Vnukovo, went into complete lockdown. In the first 40 minutes alone, 200 flights vanished from departure boards. The word "canceled" flashed repeatedly on terminal screens as thousands of passengers watched their connections to the outside world disappear. Dozens of planes from Minsk, Berlin, Almaty, and other cities found themselves suddenly homeless in the sky. St. Petersburg's airport filled to capacity within hours. Kazan, Nizhny Novgorod, and Yaroslavl airports quickly followed. With nowhere else to go, 30 commercial aircraft entered holding patterns around Moscow, burning precious fuel while waiting for the all-clear. Then came the moment that terrified everyone watching from the ground. A fuel-starved passenger jet, desperate for somewhere to land, descended to just meters above a residential district in Moscow's suburbs. Apartment dwellers filmed through their windows as the massive aircraft glided silently overhead, its engines barely audible as pilots conserved every drop of fuel. The plane cleared rooftops by mere meters, carrying hundreds of passengers through a nightmare scenario no flight manual could have prepared them for. Meanwhile, Moscow's streets descended into pandemonium. Metro stations transformed into impromptu bomb shelters as sirens wailed through chaos. Traffic ground to a halt as panicked drivers abandoned normal routes, creating gridlock that trapped emergency vehicles. Parents clutched their children while running toward underground passages, their faces illuminated by the orange glow of explosions lighting up the northern sky as Ukrainian drones descended on Russia. The attacks continued relentlessly. Ukrainian drones struck everywhere, overwhelming Moscow's defense systems through sheer numbers and coordination. Each wave forced air traffic controllers to extend the airport closures, trapping more passengers and crew members in the airport. The Russian Defense Ministry later admitted that over 40 drones had penetrated Moscow's airspace, claiming that they were swift to act and neutralized all drones before they had done any real damage. However, the final UAV was destroyed only after 11 p.m., a full 6 hours after the assault began. Social media exploded with videos that contradicted every official statement. Russians themselves documented the failures, uploading footage of defense missiles missing their targets and landing dangerously close to residential buildings. The carefully maintained narrative of Moscow's invincibility crumbled in real time as citizens shared raw, unfiltered evidence of their government's inability to protect them. Moscow's air defense system reads like a military contractor's fever dream. 3 concentric rings of the world's most expensive missile systems supposedly protect Russia's capital from any aerial threat imaginable. The outer ring features the crown jewel of Russian engineering, S-400 Triumph batteries capable of engaging targets 400 kilometers away, supported by the even newer S-500 Prometheus systems that can theoretically intercept ballistic missiles traveling at hypersonic speeds. Each S-400 battery costs approximately $500 million and fires 48 N-6 interceptor missiles worth $2 to $3 million each. These systems were designed to hunt strategic bombers and cruise missiles, the kind of expensive, sophisticated threats that defined Cold War thinking. The middle defense layer consists of modernized S-300 systems and Buk missile complexes, creating what military planners called an impenetrable safety net for anything that slipped through the outer perimeter. The innermost ring surrounding the Kremlin itself bristles with Pantsir S-1 systems, mounted on truck chassis and even installed on Moscow rooftops. These close-range defenders fire missiles costing $100,000 each, backed up by rapid-fire cannons designed to shred incoming projectiles. Electronic warfare systems like the Krasuka and Pol-21 jammers create an invisible dome over the city, theoretically capable of blinding any drone's GPS navigation or severing its control links. On paper, this defense architecture should stop anything short of a full-scale nuclear attack. In reality, Ukraine exposed every fundamental flaw in Russian military doctrine with drones that cost less than a second-hand Toyota. The S-400 systems, optimized for high-altitude, high-speed targets, struggled to even detect small composite drones flying low and slow. Their massive radar arrays, designed to spot bombers 300 kilometers away, couldn't reliably track targets the size of a toaster hugging Moscow's skyline. Even when detection worked, the economics became absurd. Firing a $2.5 million interceptor missile at a $50,000 Ukrainian drone represents the kind of mathematical impossibility that bankrupts military budgets. Ukraine's strategy forced Russia to spend 50 times more on defense than Ukraine spent on offense, creating an economic death spiral that no military accountant could sustain. Moscow's urban landscape made everything worse. The city's towering skyscrapers, bridges, and industrial complexes created radar shadows and ground clutter that turned the metropolis into a maze of blind spots. Ukrainian drones use this urban camouflage expertly, disappearing behind buildings and re-emerging too close for long-range systems to engage effectively. The Pantsir S-1 systems had mere seconds to react when targets finally appeared on their scopes. Ukraine's tactical brilliance revealed itself through coordinated timing. The drones didn't attack as a single wave that defenses could concentrate against. Instead, they arrived in carefully orchestrated groups from multiple directions, at different altitudes and intervals designed to overwhelm human operators and automated systems. Some drones carried electronic warfare payloads specifically designed to jam Russian communications and radar frequencies. Others served as decoys, drawing expensive missiles away from actual strike platforms. Intelligence analysts later discovered that several drones within each wave functioned as forward observers, transmitting real-time battle damage assessments back to Ukrainian commanders. These reconnaissance platforms allowed Ukraine to adapt their attack patterns mid-flight, exploiting gaps in Moscow's defense coverage that became apparent only during live combat. The most damaging revelation emerged from success rate analysis. Even if Moscow's defenses achieved a 60% interception rate, the remaining 40% of drones still reached their intended targets or crash-landed in populated areas. In a swarm attack involving 40 platforms, mathematical certainty guaranteed that at least 16 drones would complete their missions. Russian military doctrine had prepared for the wrong war entirely. Decades of investment in systems designed to counter American stealth bombers and NATO cruise missiles left Moscow defenseless against the kind of asymmetric threats that modern conflicts actually produce. Ukraine demonstrated that expensive, sophisticated weapons become vulnerabilities when cheaper alternatives can overwhelm them through sheer numbers and intelligent tactics. The financial implications staggered defense economists. Each night of drone attacks over Moscow consumed millions of dollars in interceptor missiles, while Ukraine's costs remained minimal. This unsustainable equation meant that Russia faced a choice between economic bankruptcy and military defeat. Exactly the strategic trap Ukraine had designed. But the military failure revealed an even deeper problem for Putin. The swarm of drones that descended on Moscow's Rubliovka district on September 23rd carried more weight than even the Ukrainians had anticipated. Those drones shattered the fundamental bargain that had kept Vladimir Putin in power for over 2 decades. The oligarchs, government officials, and business elite who built their mansions along the Rubliovka highway had enjoyed an implicit understanding: stay out of politics, support the regime publicly, and live safely while others fight Russia's wars. Ukrainian drones turned that social contract into a nightmare. For the first time since World War II, war had arrived at the doorsteps of people who believed their wealth and status made them untouchable. Putin faced an immediate crisis that had nothing to do with military tactics and everything to do with political survival. His core supporters, the wealthy Muscovites who staffed government ministries, ran state corporations, and funded regime operations, suddenly demanded the same protection that frontline soldiers desperately needed. The Pantsir S-1 air defense systems protecting ammunition depots in Donetsk became more valuable as psychological props defending Moscow office buildings. And within 72 hours of the first attack, Russian military commanders received orders that defied all strategic logic. Modern air defense batteries, including the most capable Pantsir S-1 systems and their experienced crews, began withdrawing from combat positions along the Ukrainian front. These systems, which had been desperately needed to protect supply convoys and command centers from Ukrainian missile strikes, were reassigned to defend government buildings, corporate headquarters, and residential areas where Russia's political elite lived and worked. Ukrainian soldiers are now exploiting this dilemma ruthlessly. Intelligence services identified the locations of withdrawn air defense systems and immediately planned strikes against the newly vulnerable frontline targets. Each successful attack now forces Putin deeper into the same impossible choice: respond to military necessity and risk elite panic, or maintain political stability and watch his army's logistics network crumble. Russian military doctrine had never contemplated this scenario, defending the homeland from the kind of sustained, sophisticated attacks that modern warfare enables. Soviet-era planning assumed that any major conflict would occur far from Moscow, allowing the capital's defenses to focus on nuclear deterrence rather than conventional threats. Ukraine's drone capabilities shattered that assumption and forced Russia to fight a two-front war against an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime. Putin's decision to defend the capital over the front lines sent a clear message to both his supporters and his military. Elite comfort mattered more than soldier survival. That message now has grave consequences for his frontline soldiers, as they are now fully vulnerable to Ukraine's attack. So, what do you think about this? Can Putin's regime survive this new kind of war? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and please give this video a thumbs up if you found this analysis eye-opening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of global conflicts and breaking developments. Until next time, stay informed.